Happy Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever day it is, wherever you are. And if you hear dog barking in the background, it is dog barking. It's just that some people have no idea how to train their pets. If you want a video where I complain about people that don't know how to train their pets, then I believe you can watch it here. And I'm speaking in English, and I'm speaking in English a little bit slower than I usually do, so it's easier for you, the English learner, to understand everything that I say. Now, I'm not really changing my pronunciation, so if you're worried that I'm treating you like a little baby and I'm not giving you the real pronunciation I would use with other Canadians, Americans, British people that speak my language, don't worry about it. I'm still speaking English. And if you want a little bit of extra help to make this video more comprehensible, then turn on the subtitles right here in English so you can follow along with everything that I'm saying, because the best way to get better at English is by listening, reading materials that you can understand. Now, I could talk more about this, but this video isn't about that. In this simple English video, which will probably be good for pre-intermediate to intermediate learners, I'm going to be talking about tipping culture. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Kyle, and my students from Latin America call me Profe Kyle. And right now, at this current time, on February 26, 2024, I'm in Cali, Colombia. And there's one thing I've been noticing in Colombia and other parts of Latin America. It is the introduction and implementation of tipping culture. Now, what is a tip, in case you don't know? A tip is just a little bit of extra money you give a service worker for performing a service. And tipping culture is most prevalent in the United States of America and somewhat Canada, but the country which has the largest, which maybe even created tipping culture, is the United States. But now it's starting to spread to the rest of the Americas. So now it's more in Mexico, more in Colombia, more in Argentina. Many restaurants are now including the tip in their bill. So this could be reaching your part of the world, or maybe you're in the United States or Canada and it pisses you off, or you want to know a little bit more about how tipping culture is supposed to work. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining a little bit about it. So first I want to talk about what I'm seeing right now in Latin America. So like I said, right now I'm in where? Cali, Colombia. And one thing which is pissing me off, I don't know if it pisses you off, but it definitely pisses me off, is that I'll go to a restaurant and I'll ask for the check. The waiter will bring me the check. I will look over the check, and at the very bottom, before the total, it will say tip. Now, it will also say tip is voluntary most of the time. I wouldn't be surprised if that message isn't always there, but most of the time it will say the tip is voluntary. But what really pisses me off is that they automatically add the tip to the bill. Now, why does this piss me off? Let's go back to how tipping culture is supposed to work. So I worked as a bartender and a waiter for 3 years when I was in university in Canada. So I know exactly how American, Canadian style tipping culture is supposed to work. So let me give you the basics. Tipping culture is most prevalent in restaurants and bars in Canada and the United States. Sometimes at a barber shop, at a hair salon, with a taxi driver, You'll also give them tips, but that's not as expected. For example, with a bartender, oh sorry, not with a bartender, what I want to say, with a barber, if he gives me a haircut and fixes my beard, the reason I would give him a tip is because I want him to remember me, and I want to make sure that it's more likely I get good service in the future. So that is a common belief among American Canadian men, is to tip your barber, because they're the ones that make you look good for the ladies, for the public. So you want to give them a little bit extra so they treat you very well and they do a good job with your hair and your beard. But again, it's not really necessary. From my experience, barbers, they don't really expect it. I never seen one complain. I'm pretty sure they would love it if they got tips every time, but yeah, it's not always expected at a barbershop, at a hair salon, to give a tip. But yes, in general, at restaurants and bars, you're expected to give a tip if you get good service. And that is the foundation of the American tipping culture, is that if you get good service from a waiter, you should give him a tip. And as a waiter, you are expecting that if you give good service, that you're gonna get a tip. So before I go into the details about all this, let's talk about how much of a tip you're usually gonna give a waiter or a bartender. So when I worked as a waiter or a bartender, and it's still true to today, even though it is changing, I think at the very end of the video, I will talk about how this is changing. But traditionally, if you got good service, not incredible service, but good service, normally you're going to be giving a 15% tip. So 15% of the total you're going to be giving as a tip to the waiter or the bartender. Now, if that was a honk. Now, what is good service? Because this is also important. Because, for example, right now in Latin America, they don't give good service and they expect a tip, or they automatically add a tip, which is ridiculous. So good service in Canada, United States, because there will be some people who've been to Canada or the United States who will say, well, I got horrible service and I gave a tip. Well, if you got horrible service, I feel bad for you. You don't need to give a tip if they gave you a horrible service, and you shouldn't feel guilted into giving a tip if they gave you horrible service. You can give $0 if you want. But yes, good service for us, for Canadians, for Americans, means that when you get to the restaurant, a host or hostess greets you friendly with a smile, takes you to a table, lets you know that the waiter will be with you soon, waiter or waitress. Then, in a timely manner, so that would be in 1, maximum 2 minutes, the waiter or waitress should come to the table and introduce themselves to you, tell you about any specials, any special food which is being served at that time, or any special drinks being served at that time. And then they will take a drink order. So if you're the customer and you want something to drink, they'll take your drink order. If you're not ready, they'll just tell you to take your time, and they will be back in a few minutes to take your drink order. And if you're ready at that time, they'll also take your food order. Now this is also very important, because I've noticed in other parts of the world, and again, for me, this is why tipping culture is good, because it makes the waiters do their jobs. Now maybe somebody will say waiters should always do their jobs, or bartenders should always do their jobs, and that's very true. But obviously, if there's a little bit of a monetary incentive, they're going to do their job a little bit better. At least that's how it works in Canada and the United States. So because of the tipping culture, the waiters, waitresses, bartenders, they are always watching their tables, always watching their customers. So when the waiter leaves and lets the customers look at the menu, they're still watching. They're seeing if they close the menus. For me as a waiter or as a bartender, if I see the customer close a menu, or if I see the customer start to look around like this, it's a sign I need to get my ass over to that table right away to give service and take their orders. That's what's expected of me if I want to get a tip, right? So as soon as the customer closes the menu, I go over, I take their drink order, and then I take their food order. Of course, sometimes they only are ready to order their drinks, not their food. But whatever. What I'm trying to say is the waiter, the bartender, the waitress is always ready to take the order, not making their customers wait an extra second, an extra minute to be served. Serving needs to be timely, right? Then, of course, as the waiter, bartender, I put the order into the machine. The order gets sent to the kitchen if I'm the waiter, or it gets sent to myself if I'm the bartender and making drinks. When the drinks are ready, I take the drinks out right away to the customers. Then, when the food is ready, normally between 10 to 15 minutes later, I take the food out right away. I ask the customers if they need anything else. If they need anything else, I make sure I get it. Then, while the customers are eating their food, again, I'm not on my phone gossiping with my cousin or gossiping with my fellow servers, my fellow bartenders. Not to say that we never do that, but if there's a lot of tables, a lot of people, your job is to always be looking over the room, looking at your customers, seeing if they need anything. Now, this is something where a lot of people from other countries, they don't seem to like it, but for Americans and Canadians, it's considered good service. So that's usually when customers have eaten, I would say, a quarter, a third of their meal. You go over and you ask them how everything is tasting. Now, this is the opportunity for the customer to basically make a complaint or to ask for anything they might need to make their experience even better. So for example, if I order a steak and maybe the steak isn't cooked enough, not cooked to my liking, then I will tell the waiter at this time, I ordered a steak medium rare, but this looks more like rare. And as a waiter, the customer is always right, even if they could be wrong. I take the steak back to the kitchen. I tell the cooks what the customer said, and the cooks will tell me if the customer is right, if the customer is wrong. Then I take back the order of the customer once everything is fixed. So that's the main reason we do it. Now, when I've talked to people from other countries, they don't seem to like this. They feel like they're being bothered. But for American, Canadian style service, this is expected of the waiters. Then, as soon as the table, the customers have finished eating, I need to be at the table taking away the dirty plates right away. I'm going to talk about other countries in a little bit, but again, this is expected of the service. As soon as everybody is done, you take away the plates. Another thing too is if you notice, one of the customers maybe ordered a beer and you see the cup is empty. Again, my job as a waiter to go over to the table and ask the customer if he would like another beer or another drink. And yeah, they'll tell me if they want one or not. That's expected of the service. Once I clear all the dishes, I ask the customers if they would like dessert or anything else. If they don't want anything else, they tell me if they want the bill or not. If they want the bill, I get the bill for them. Very important. There's no automatic tip put on the bill. There is usually a section that will say tip percentage or tip amount. And that is the customer's decision. The customer will decide if they give me a tip or not. So, if I gave them good service, like I just described, so that means being attentive, getting their orders in a timely manner, clearing their plates, getting them more drinks, then I do expect as a waiter to get a 15% tip, minimum. Now, if I go above and beyond, who knows, maybe I'm very entertaining. I was never really an entertaining waiter or bartender, but I met many entertaining bartenders and waiters who really knew how to make the customer experience even better. So in a way, they were a waiter slash entertainer. Now, if you are one of those waiters or bartenders, many times you're going to get a 20% tip. A 20% tip usually is just showing that you are incredible at what you do. You made my experience incredible. My wife, my girlfriend, my friends, they had a blast. We're not going to forget about this night for a month, a few months, maybe a year, because it was so incredible. Then yeah, you deserve a 20% or maybe even a 25% tip. Now, if I give the service, which I've experienced in many other parts of the world, for example, in Latin America, then the customers have the right to give me a 10% tip. A 10% tip for us means that you weren't really a good waiter, bartender, and yeah, we weren't too impressed. And 0% tip just means you were trash. I had a horrible experience. I'm never going to come here again. I'm going to write an angry review on Google Maps to show and express how disappointed I was in the service. That's what means, yeah, 10% or 0% tip. So it's funny for me, as you can imagine, when I go to a place like Latin America and they don't take my order on time. If I finish my drink and I want another drink, I have to do the stupid, come over here, I need to take an order. I hate that. The waiters, that's their job, that's what they're being paid for, to be attentive to the customers. They should be noticing, hey, he finished his drink. I should go over and ask him if he would like a refill, if he would like another drink, if he would like something else. But they don't do that. So bad service. As I was saying, they don't take my order in a timely manner. They don't get me more drinks when I finish a drink. They don't clear my plates when I finish eating. And I have to beg to get my bill to leave. And now, before the pandemic, before 2020, in Latin America at least, they didn't really care too much about a tip. They would give horrible service, but at the same time, they didn't expect a tip. But nowadays, they give horrible service and they expect a tip. But not only do they expect a tip, they automatically add the tip to the bill. And that really rubs me the wrong way. As a former waiter and bartender, at least when I was working, so this was in 2011, 2012, 2009, that part of my life, that time period. If I did that as a waiter or bartender, I would be fired. I would be fired immediately. All the customer has to do is say, manager, the waiter has added an automatic tip. What is going on here? And yes, the manager, in many cases, would just fire you immediately. It has happened. I think I've seen it, and I think I've heard about many times. Yeah, waiters just get fired. If they complain to the customer about a tip, or if they try to do something sneaky, shady, like automatically add the tip to the bill, then yes, that is a fireable offense, and that waiter, bartender, waitress will be relieved of their duties shortly after committing such an offensive action against the customer and the service industry, right? And yeah, right now I'm noticing that many people in Latin America are very pissed off about this, and I totally understand. I don't think it's fair for waiters, bartenders, waitresses to automatically be adding tips to bills. That's something to be deserved from good service. And if they get good service, it's the customer's decision to ask for a tip. And yeah, as a waiter or a bartender or waitress, I wouldn't want to add an automatic tip to a bill, because if I give incredible service, then if I put automatically a 10% tip, what if the customers want to give me a 20% tip? Wouldn't I rather have 20% than 10%? So basically, what these waiters, waitresses, bartenders are doing in Latin America and other parts of the world, which don't really understand how tipping culture works, is basically stopping themselves from getting tipped more, and also making the customers hate them by adding an automatic tip. So yeah, I don't think it's fair. If you're a waiter, waitress, restaurant owner, bar owner, bartender in Latin America or another part of the world which is automatically adding a tip, then please stop it. It's incredibly irritating. It's not your decision to put a tip on the bill. If you're not making enough money, then that's something you need to talk about with your manager. It's not the customer's responsibility to make sure that you're getting paid enough or getting paid more. If you want to get a tip, that's totally fine. On the receipts, you can just put a blank tip percentage, tip amount, and if you want to put a suggestion, then you could put a tip suggestion, 10% this amount, 15% this amount, 20% this amount. But again, it's not your decision, it's the customer's decision. Now, I know that in Latin America, I could easily just say, please, I don't want to pay the tip, this is all I am paying. But it's very shady doing that, because you're basically making the customer feel horrible about not giving you the tip, even though you may have never even deserved it. So it's just a very, what would be the best way to say that? A very shady way to guilt a customer into giving you money, and I don't approve of it at all. Now, maybe you've been to Canada, United States, and you notice that a waiter, waitress, bartender has added an automatic tip. That does happen. So just a few more things about the restaurant service industry in Canada, United States, which might be interesting to you. So from my experience, if a waiter had a table, I think it depends on the restaurant, but if the waiter has a table of more than 6 people, or more than 8 people, or more than 10 people, the tip is automatic. But again, the customer knows this. So if somebody comes to a restaurant or makes a reservation and they say, it's my birthday party, we're going to have 10 people. The hostess, the host, or the restaurant manager will tell the customer directly, that's fantastic, that's great, just want to let you know, we'll make the reservation. There is an automatic 15% tip on all reservations over 8 people. So the customer already knows before going to the restaurant that there will be an automatic tip. That's just being courteous, that's just having good manners, that's just being professional, which seems to be lacking in other parts of the world which are trying to implement the tip culture. And the other thing, this is a big difference between restaurants in Canada, the United States, and other parts of the world, for example, Latin America, and this could be interesting, is that you may notice if you go to a Canadian or American restaurant that the waiter, no, not the waiter, sorry, the host, the hostess will have a map. At the entrance, they'll have a map of all the tables in the restaurant. And you might be wondering, why do they have the map? Are they dumb? They don't know where the tables are? I can see the tables. They're right there. No. What happens is that waiters will have a designated section. So in my experience in Vancouver, where I was working, maximum amount of tables I would have would be 4. 4 tables that could fit 4 people, right? Maybe I'd have more tables. For example, I could have 6 tables, but those tables could only fit 2 people. So of course, in that case, I get 6 tables because there will be less customers if I only had 4 tables that could seat 2 people each. So by doing this, we are ensuring that you, the customer, gets the best service possible, because I've been in Latin America and they have waiters serving a table in that corner, then the same waiter has a table in that corner, then the server will have a table of 10 people in the middle, then I'll have in the other corner another table. So it's very inefficient for the server. It's almost impossible to give good service because, one, you have a huge group of people in the middle, and then you have the table spread out all over the place. So it makes the server's job incredibly difficult, and it's almost impossible to give a good service. So sometimes I don't really blame the servers for giving bad service because it's not really their fault. It's more the restaurant owner or the restaurant manager's fault for not putting a system in place where servers have a maximum of 4 tables each. And that's more or less the tipping culture in Canada and the United States. That's how it's supposed to work. So if you're in another country of the world and they're starting to ask for tips, and it seems a little bit shady how they're implementing it, trying to make you pay money without your consent, then yeah, I'm telling you right now, it's not how it works, how it's supposed to work where I'm from, and I have no qualms, very advanced word right there, with you complaining about it, because I would complain the same, and actually I complain right now because I have to deal with it all the time when I go out. I don't like it at all. So, what do you think? Are you having to deal with this crazy, strange tipping culture right now where you live, or maybe in Canada, the United States? Is the tipping culture getting out of control? I've heard some crazy stories about how it is in those countries, my home country and also the United States. So yeah, let me know your experience down below in the comments. And if you have any other questions, well, please let me know. And hopefully you learned a little bit more English by watching this video. And I'll talk to you soon, my dear, dear student.